Yes, we are live. Please carry on.
You're right. Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Ritu Bararia, and I welcome all of you here this evening on behalf of SDLC Global.
There's an echo.
Yes, is this all right? Are we all okay? Yeah?
Update.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah. So, hi, good evening, and welcome everyone. My name is Ritu Bararia, and I welcome you all on behalf of SDLC Global. For the benefit of those who are not familiar with SDLC, this term denotes Sustainable Development Leaders Council. This is a membership-based, not-for-profit organization spearheading the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, better known as SDGs, defined and mandated by UNDP in the Indian context. So, creating such forums and expediting such initiatives like today's is a part of our mandate, and it is our constant endeavor to engage with the societies, with the government, with the corporate, in a bid to create awareness and to impart information and knowledge in the space of SDGs with the ultimate objective of making a difference. So today's discussion is centered upon a very, very sensitive and always a burning topic of gender equality, which also happens to be SDG number 5. And this concerns gender equality, and also this officially means achieving gender equality and empowering all the women and the girls across the globe. So I'm sure all of you would agree with me. This is a very, very sensitive topic, yet it's a very, very dynamic topic. If and it needs to be handled very, very cautiously and with a lot of sensitivity and with a lot of sensibility. So, and this topic, the topic of gender equality slash inequality slash discrimination, has been persisting and sustaining for time immemorial ever since the formation of the civil society. It has been talked about a lot. It has been extensively discussed on various forums and platforms like these, and sometimes leading to a lot of heated arguments and as well as controversy. So, how this forum is different and how we set apart this forum from the already existing ones is that today we are going to be engaging in a very, very healthy dialogue around this topic. And everybody, all the panelists here, along with me, they're all going to talk about their own success stories, how they managed to break the glass ceilings, how they managed to reach the top of the ladder, and their experiences, along with the challenges that they faced in their journey. So the idea is, the agenda is not to, establish inferiority or superiority of any one gender over the others, but to engage in a very meaningful and a productive dialogue here. So, without further ado, I would like to introduce all of you to this awesome lineup of my co panelists here.
We're so dynamic, the screen's gone blank.
but she'll be back. It's a technical glitch if everybody can hear. Just give us a minute. We've lost our pillar Ritu, who should be coming back in a moment.
So please bear with me. I think the connection at Ritu's end is poor. So please bear with me. I would request, if you guys can continue. I believe that chat started, and you can start with your version.
Maybe Ruby can.
Yeah, maybe let's just start with the journey, because it's gender equality. All of us have been through our individual journeys. So, Jahnabi, maybe you can go first.
You want to ask the question? You have the list.
Yeah, so Jahnabi here is an entrepreneur who's also been the president of FICCI Flow last year. She's been at the forefront of the women entrepreneurship movement, and she's also led so many women entrepreneurs. I think FICCI has a huge number of entrepreneurs and women, across professions associated with it. So, Jahnabi, if you could just talk about your journey a bit, it would be great.
Right. Thank you, Ruby. We were asked about how did we start our entrepreneurial journey. So the question was about how do we break the traditional societal norms and become successful. I think that's what Ritu had planned out for us. But I'd like to say that where we come from in the Northeast, it's a great breeding ground for women. Be confidently out in the workplace, and I'm very blessed to have the whole ecosystem of encouraging, supportive parents, supportive in-laws who all encouraged me when I wanted to go out to work. And coming back as a young journalist in those days into the sleepy town of Guwahati and thinking about starting my own venture, starting out on our little journey of travel, it was taken very well. And because I got the support and raised 3 children along the way, and put up our companies and work towards our goal, was why I think that it was the ecosystem that helps. It's hugely of help there. I think Ritu's back. Should I continue, Ritu, or?
Jahnabi, continue, I think.
Yes. So then, so with that, I think that's how it's not, there's no shortcut. I don't want to take any, advantage that we got special treatment being a woman. It wasn't anything of that sort. Finally, it's the domain language, the domain knowledge. You have to have domain knowledge. And I never considered myself as I was working in a man's field when we started out on our first journey. But I think when we talked about what Ritu's had wanted us to go on about the challenges which were along the way, my challenge, I would say, is that when we, in this northeast corner of the country, when we thought about starting the river cruises and taking that attempt on the long distance river cruising on the Brahmaputra, and nobody thought it was possible because since independence, no one has ever sailed those waters and nobody would give us the loan. Everyone thought we were, quite mad about it and not possible. But we struggled. We had we didn't have a mentor to look up to. We didn't have any benchmark. We pretty much created our own path, carved our own, path in that, on the water, on the highways. And with a lot of struggle, but with people, with the bank, with State Bank of India, who finally said, okay, we will take a chance on you people. And let's see if you can make this true. And today we are on the 2 greatest Himalayan rivers
of the country on the Brahmaputra and on the Ganges. And that's because we didn't let the challenges stop us.
Ritu, can you hear us?
Ritu, are you back? Would you like to take over?
Lost a lot of what, but I think I lost Jahnabi, you on the way. So yes.
So I think
sorry about this goof up. I really don't. I just fail to understand what's happening here. But
doesn't matter. It's okay. We are all managing.
It happens.
Am I audible to you?
Mamta comes in next.
So if I talk about my journey and the challenges, I actually think it's the same. I think we're part of all of us, and becoming a woman achiever, becoming an achiever in any field, no matter what gender you are, has a lot to do with the fact that we had the support. We were lucky to be born in certain families. It starts with your parents, and then it goes on to the ecosystem, which would be your school, your college, friends, other relatives, different mentors in your career, that entire ecosystem that is supportive. And in the beginning, it just comes to you. Afterwards, you do start seeking it out. And very early in life, I realized I'm the kind of person who will never be able to completely look up to just one person. If I was asked to say who's my hero or heroine or whatever one might call it today, you call it hero, I know, wouldn't be any one person. So similarly, my mentors were a multitude of people. So for different things in my life, I looked for different mentors. And when it comes to challenges, I actually don't think I had a professional challenge. First of all, I don't think I've achieved very much. If you look at human potential, I don't think we have even tapped, at least I don't think I've tapped into even 5 or 10% of what I could do. Because it's unfathomable what human potential is. Until you're pushed to the brink, sometimes you don't even realize what you're capable of. And I think the biggest challenge for me was actually discovering myself. That was the first challenge. And it's an ongoing journey. I'm still discovering myself, because if I don't know myself properly, what can I offer to my family, to society, or to my organization or anybody else? So it's still an ongoing journey, and I'm still trying to be a better version of myself. So that's the first challenge. The second challenge is still personal, is different things that have happened, whether it was the loss of almost, I have just about 2 or 3%, 5% eyesight in one of my eyes. So it was an air gun shot at a picnic in Bombay, because I'm from Mumbai and I was in college. And then 25 years later, my retina got detached, and how I dealt with that and the impact it has on your choice of career. You can't take up, I was doing medicine, so you can't take up certain lines. You have to keep changing. You have to keep adapting. So while we talk about change today, there are certain life changes you have to make because of what life throws at you. And then if I look at recently through COVID, 9th of May, I lost my husband. That's another challenge. And how do I reinvent myself through this, not just helping myself, but helping people around me? So I've always said the challenges are personal and not professional. I don't know anything in the office that, or any kind of career that I couldn't do had I wanted to do it, if I set my mind to it. So that's me.
I would say the Ruby going next to Ritu can't come in.
Yeah, Ruby, your
Ruby.
Great hearing your journeys. It's very motivating. Actually, after hearing everything, I feel that women are neither from Venus or anywhere else. They're simply from Earth, who need a gender neutral environment to grow and thrive. And that's where somewhere all of us have got that environment to grow and really do well in our chosen professions. So I remember I've been born and brought up in Calcutta, but and Calcutta as a city is known for being very pro women's women, and all that. The atmosphere is very pro women. But my parents come from Bihar, and my mother especially comes from a very small village in Bihar. So she was married at a very young age, but in spite of that, despite the societal norms she had grown up with, she created a very gender neutral environment at home for me and my brothers. So I don't remember her forcing me to play with dolls or follow certain patterns. I used to play football and cricket with my brothers, or even cricket at school. So that was the beginning, and where you realize that you need a gender neutral environment to grow. And then I moved on. I did journalism, and I also did a filmmaking course where I was incidentally the only only girl amongst all the men, all the guys at that point of time. And Then when I moved into the communications field, of course, it had more of women, but somehow I would notice that, that when people are starting their career at the freshers level, you have a lot more women. And even data currently shows the same, that around 33% women amongst the top 100 companies. There are about 33% women in the top 100, top in the freshers level. But by the time we move up to the mid management level, this number starts coming down to 18, and then finally at the top it's 14. So I realized that a lot of women leave their careers because of maternity and other family pressures, elder care, etc., and even in the metros. And when I started my own entrepreneurial venture, firstly my communications firm, I really tried to bring these women back into the workforce. So incidentally, today work from home has become a big thing. But when we started Commune, we were a bunch of work from home mothers who got together, and we even had a creche in our office for anybody who wanted to bring their child to office. So that was the way we started. We wanted to bring women into the workforce and make people understand that women are very serious about their careers, the women who were even working at home. But then the other challenge was, when I became an entrepreneur, I also realized that it's very difficult to run your own venture. Especially on paper, it's very different. In India, you see there are many women's in ventures, but usually they have a husband who's working with them and totally supporting them. Or sometimes in the smaller cities, they're only on papers. But when you're running your own venture, you need to know a lot of things about funding, business, accounts, running teams, managing teams, etc. So that was the biggest challenge. And because of that, I set up a portal for women entrepreneurs, for aspiring and as well as current women entrepreneurs looking at moving beyond micro enterprises and freelance jobs to creating their own scalable enterprises. And this venture is called sheatwork.com, which is a one-stop knowledge hub for women entrepreneurs. And we try to mentor them and provide them information on various government incentives, funding opportunities, etc., so that they can grow and prosper in their own ventures, not just in the metro, but even in the smaller cities of India. So that's been my journey. And one of the biggest challenges, I think they're common for most entrepreneurs. But being a woman, initially, I feel the biggest challenge was to be taken seriously, that this is not a part-time option. And, so when you, and I always was very focused on looking at corporate big clients, and they would require a big setup and somebody, who just wouldn't shut shop one day and sit at home. So getting people to take you very seriously as an entrepreneur is one of the biggest challenges for women entrepreneurs. And just getting to build up your teams who take you equally seriously, because you realize that this is an organization which is there for the long term and not one woman fancy. So all those challenges are constantly there, and of course they continue.
Fantastic.
Ritu.
So taking a cue from that, Ruby, I have a question for Toolika. Toolika, like Ruby mentioned, that it becomes very difficult to find your footing, in a predominantly patriarchal society or a male-dominated society. So tell us about yourself. You are an ex-squadron leader. You have when we look at your passions and your journey, whatever you have pursued is something it's primarily a male-dominated area. These are the careers that usually males are supposed to be pursuing, and we see males often in these areas of work. So tell us about yourself, how difficult or easy it was for you to find your footing there and to establish yourself as a leader.
Well, I would say that I have been quite blessed to have support of my parents, my family, as well as my relatives. A lot of people have supported me in my decisions. But if I take the perspective to a larger arena, I would say that taking such kind of unconventional decision is not easy for women anywhere in this world. Absolutely. And in Asian society, especially joining defense forces, that time in 2004, when I had cleared it, and 2005, I began my training, 15, 16 years back from today. It was still not a very conventional field. Even today, the percentage of women in the armed forces is 16% at the best. So really? We can find out also, yes. And at that time also, when I decided to join forces, my family was supportive. But I would say that for women, it must be difficult to take these kind of decisions, because challenges for women start not only at the time when they take their career decision, but even before their birth. I had read that as per the United Nations Population Fund Statistics Report, the State of World Population 2020, the sex ratio in India at birth is just 9-10 females per 1,000 male children. So that is the ratio. If we have this wide gap, even at the time of birth between male children and female children, we can understand that the problem and women's challenge are very deep rooted, because we have the societal perception is the biggest challenge for women to do anything in their life. So
Correct.
first,
we lost Toolika now. Did we lose Toolika? Oh, all right. Sure. I'm sure she's going to rejoin. She must be facing challenges here like I was. So that's absolutely fine. So my question now to Jahnabi, the next question, let's come to the next question, is what kind of challenges do you foresee for the current generation, or Gen Z as they like to call themselves? How do you think, what kind of challenges these Gen Z women are going to be facing?
Well, thanks for your question, Ritu. Right now, I think in this pandemic era, they are really going to be named, they have facing extraordinary challenges besides the regular ones with being in this pandemic gap. I think they are called the pandemic generation now. And for us, I think when the country is trying to close that, when we, the gender gap, we like to think that we are looking at the SDG goal 5. We do know realistically we have a 100-year gap to fill that.
Yeah.
However, in the country, a lot of concerted efforts are being taken to work towards that. And in a country like ours, when we thought we will be able to take advantage of that demographic dividend that we all talk about, that by we would have been in a position, if it wasn't for the pandemic, to be able to slightly close the demographic dividend. But our women's participation, as it is the lowest in the world, second lowest in the world. Yet we are struggling to find our place in the world theater. For while we have succeeded in many ways, I would say the e-commerce side, women have been able to take advantage and embrace the e-commerce section, find advantages there. But the women at the informal sector are still going to be grappling with many issues, from violence, safe places to work, the gender gap. We know all those problems which are there. So in that scenario, we find that our generation, the pandemic generation, have a lot. While on one hand they are going to take advantage and try to close, at least in the e-commerce, in the digital divide, but in the demographic divide, there is going to be we've had the setback. But I do think that those who are consciously addressing these, the government has taken measures to consciously address this, and those are what we'll have to work towards.
Correct. So in a way, you are saying the society has not really evolved when it comes to the gender situation in the society, in our society. I'm specifically talking about Indian society only, because we know all over the globe these things do happen. These practices against women, discriminations and all do happen. They are a part and parcel of every society. But I think other societies are little better evolved than India is. So what you are saying is that our next generations and the generation currently, they're all going to face the similar issues that we have been facing all these years.
Yes.
There is not much of an improvement. There is not much of a progress there, right?
Well, it's been addressed. The main thing is the problem has been addressed. And they're trying, for instance, in the rural sectors, with the empowerment, with the economic empowerment that they're trying to give the women, with the Ujjwala schemes, the direct bank beneficiaries. So that's how the government is trying to empower the rural women. And since in India, there are so many levels. I do think this time they're trying to see that Bharat is not left behind.
Right.
So on that, they're working on a concerted way. And for that, there are many such schemes. I do think that, especially the girl child, has been addressed. And this is what we try to put up to the government, to the Ministry of Women and Child Development, about addressing all the governance policies in this new India, including that NEP, the National Education Policy, through the gender lens, that we must have a bundled approach. All ministries, if you look at tourism, if you look at petroleum and natural gases, if you look at MSME, and of course the women, the WCD ministry, they're all involving women. So in that bundled approach is how the government is looking at, taking this issue from this era onward, though we have lost a lot of time in the pandemic years.
Right. Yes. So Mamta, what is your take on this? What kind of challenges do you foresee for the woman in the coming generation and in the present generation?
So I think Jahnabi is very well covered what is likely to happen and the improvements we've seen in the rural sector. I think banking the unbanked is a very big thing, whether it be men or women. Since we're talking about gender equality, I'm not just looking at women. Everybody needs to get access to whatever is their due, and the government has done a lot. This whole digitization is taking us far. But when it comes to the cities, I think what will stop a woman is a woman herself. Because there are certain innate needs, and then of course there are generational differences. So while men today are helping, especially this whole work from home scenario that we faced in the last 1.5 to 2 years, men are helping. But is a woman willing to let go? Are you willing to let go the strings of the kitchen? Are you willing to let go bringing up your child and letting somebody else take that role, even if you had a partner who was willing to do it and capable of doing it at the same level that you are? Are you willing to stop multitasking? Because it isn't healthy to multitask. I've been multitasking for 35 years of my working life, and I assure you I have a cervical problem, a major cervical problem. So we stress ourselves out because we work like an Excel sheet, a task list of an Excel sheet that just goes on and on and on. Are we able to follow mindfulness that is being talked about? So I think for women in general and for men, for everybody, these are challenges in learning to find that new soft power and your own space before you come forth. But when it comes to women in rural areas, giving opportunities for education, we've talked about financial independence and livelihood, but education is, I think, paramount, because if we educate everybody in India, at a level that they can at least find a job, and if we focus on skills development, I think we will see great progress, because I don't think we've addressed that. If you look at the economies of Australia and Canada 20 or 25 years back, 30 years back, especially Australia, skills development was given a lot of importance, and we don't have enough of those in the city. And even if they move from villages to a city, and they don't have a skill, how are they going to find a job? Now, when they do, they're able to feed an entire family. Their wives come forward. The wives start bringing up the children, the girl child and the boy child. Everybody gets educated, and society moves forward by the standards we call moving forward. So that's my take on it.
You're right, Mamta. What you're saying is what I was also feeling. We as women have a lot to blame for our condition today. We've started feeling we are like Durga with 10 hands. We can do everything with our 10 hands. Do this, do that, do that. So, who wants to take on your load if you're willing to do everything yourself? So somewhere we have to, if you want to improve our condition, we need to start taking support of others, especially in the cities. I see more and more men, our husbands, our spouses, they're all willing to come forward and help you. It's becoming a more and more gender, men are supportive, families are supportive, but we need to call out and reach out to them, because somewhere they've also been preconditioned since childhood to certain norms, and if you don't explain to them, they'll not come forward. So that's a big step that we all have to take. And especially the word gender should start not, it should be non-existent, in some years, because, these Women's Day and all these gender equality, these terminologies, exist for a reason. So somewhere I personally feel, being an entrepreneur, that, if women become more and more independent, whatever way, even if they are entrepreneurs, studies show that Indian women, if they just become entrepreneurs, they can, if women come into the workforce, GDP goes up by 6.5%. If women become entrepreneurs, they can create around 150 to 170 million jobs. So, so getting women into the workforce is very important, and somewhere that is required. But for that, a lot has to be done by women themselves.
Absolutely, Ruby. As someone wisely said to me,
we need to create
we should
support groups
support each
for
other.
other women. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, during COVID, just one example, during the second pandemic, I was seeing Facebook posts of women who are unwell and still they were cooking food for their family. I mean, we are the ones who are promoting such fixed, mindsets. We shouldn't be. I mean, that's not the right thing to do. The family should come forward and help her when she's unwell. So somewhere we all have to step forward and try to educate women wherever in our little circles, even our maids, even our house helps. Everybody, we need to educate them. Then only we'll achieve an universal gender equality. Ritu, you're back. I gave my viewpoint already.
Yes. So, Toolika, I'm sure you have something to add to what Ruby has just been talking
I would
about.
say that I would say that we have to detach this concept of family being the sole responsibility of women. And this is what perhaps Ms. Mamta and Ms. Ruby were trying to say right now, that women being taken as the sole proprietor of the family chores, that has to change. So, because family consists of many members, and all the members have to take responsibility of running a family in all the manners. As women nowadays have come out into the professional arena, and they have double responsibility. So, being a superwoman is nothing but a facade. It is just to add on to additional responsibility on women. That concept needs to change. So every human being has some inclination. I really accept what Ms. Ruby said, that we also have to learn that women are human beings and they have their potentials, inborn potentials and inclinations. See, I'm a person, I would tell, that I do not like cooking at all. I have no inclination towards cooking. So if somebody says that as a woman, that shall be one must have requisite for me, I would disagree there. Because I have an inclination towards fighting, perhaps towards martial art, towards public speaking. So these are the areas where my heart naturally belongs. So these perceptions that women have to fit into a certain mold which society frames them.
Yes. No, wonderful, Toolika, and you have managed to create a place for yourself in your passion areas. So that's commendable. That's absolutely commendable. Yes. So I also wanted to have Jahnabi now. I would like to have your views on a very, very burning topic within the gender equality notion. We are going to be talking about the topic of misogyny here. So what is your take and what are your views on misogyny? How do you take it and how do you see that? Do you think that really exists, like really a lot? And have you ever faced anything like that, or how does it work?
It's very interesting because in a country like ours, it's like a subcontinent. And each region, each state is like a country by itself, with its own peculiar, mindsets. But where we come from in the Northeast, we've never had that problem. But it was only, being more in touch with, as the national president of FICCI, Flo, and speaking with women across the country, that 1 year through our 17 chapters, we realize that we are the privileged generation, the privileged layer of women. But it is our work, that our responsibility to improve these and highlight and show the gender lens to the women who are less privileged. So in our way, we all know the inequalities and all the, it's an age old, there's a 70 years of sort of a difference, huge difference that we have between the genders.
Right.
But yeah, the responsibility, let us address that. And what is the main issue that I feel that women should be also talking about is how are we raising the men? And who is sensitizing the men?
Correct.
So while we talk about our work and our place, are the men also thinking like that? Are the children being raised like that? Are our women raising our sons to respect the woman across. And the age-old, the patriarchal mindset, all that is going to change. I think the young people will take it forward. But the responsibility there also lies with the media, with communicators, with the national press, with with each region to point it out. And two things is, one is that we are one India, one country, and to treat each region as its own. I've never faced it myself, but coming from where I do in the Northeast, it's been always a big rouse about how we're never accepted in mainland India because of this issue. So this is something we should address. And it's sad to think that in today's day and age, we're still talking about it. We should have gone beyond that, and we will. Yes. So it's very important that positive things go out, and each of us, in our way, we are responsible to look after, go beyond our privileging, and bring out these differences that you've spoken about. Highlight them. Wherever we see them, highlight it and speak about it.
Right. Thank you. Mamta, would you like to add on to this?
So I was very lucky to be born and brought up in Mumbai, Bombay as it was then, and Mumbai as it is today. And in that city, you don't see caste, color, creed, race, gender. Everything and everybody is equal. What speaks is, money. Where are you? Where have you got yourself in the race of the modern race of life, so to say? But then life took me to so many different cities. I haven't lived in a village, unfortunately, yet. But I've lived in Calcutta. I've lived in, of course, Mumbai several times, Delhi, Agra, Africa, UK, and Chennai. Again, I haven't lived in Bangalore or Hyderabad, and each state is different. But I realized that India, I learned through all of that, and I realized India is a very vast country, and you do face different things. And the stronger you are as a woman, the more values that certain of the opposite gender may have been brought up with get ignited, so to say. So I've tried very hard that if I walk into a room, I shouldn't overtake the room, because I think that's the kind of personality I have. But I can tell you it's very tough. And what I am realizing is, if I can just zip it and keep quiet and speak less, underdress, no power dressing, just don't care how I look, maybe go looking like some muffin of some sorts. Basically play it all down, play my natural self down. Maybe then they will feel more comfortable. And now why do I need to do that? Because you got to make a beginning somewhere. You've got to help them, because they are not able to help themselves. And it exists. And if it exists for all of us, you can imagine how it would exist in the rest of the country. And therefore, I think the answer is also in your own circle of influence. And we had this reference in an earlier conversation. Create your own circle of influence, whether it's your friends, whether it's your family, whether it's the domestic help, whether it's the livelihood that we're giving, and we could talk about it. Try to create that ecosystem in any way, in a myriad of ways, and maybe it will multiply. More of us and more power to us.
Agreed. Totally agree. Definitely. Ruby, would you have something to say on this, on the topic of?
I think Jahnabi and Mamta have actually told a lot about it. And what I can add is that, it's very different for us. We are sitting in the metros. But when you go to the smaller towns and villages, I go to Patna in my village once in a while, and it's not the same over there. There's such prejudices even now. I mean, even for people like us when we go to our village. So I'm telling you, it's a reality. So it's a very different world between here and there. So, what is misogyny? I mean, you have your first daughter, it's a great thing. You have your second daughter, there's family pressure, you should have a son. That's Indian culture, So, I mean, these are very subtle things. Maybe in the cities, people have become very sophisticated, but you can see the undercurrents. So, these are small things that people are too sophisticated to speak out, but you can see. So, somewhere, I think if we start becoming gender proud, so we as women, we are partly responsible. I'm telling you, most of us women, I mean, I've seen women, so, if we start treating our daughters to be equal, if we start teaching our sons to treat women properly, if there's a gender neutral, environment at home, even in schools, I mean, mom, the textbook says mom is cooking at home, father went to office. So that's very funny. So somewhere society has to work on a lot, because of course it exists. It exists in some form. Otherwise, why won't my daughter is 16 today, the elder one, and I'm scared of sending her out to Delhi after 6 o'clock, even before 6 o'clock currently. So you mean to say it doesn't exist? So it's there. I'm as a parent very worried because I can't give her a safe environment to walk out in the evening. So there's so much of crime and violence and sexual violence, etc. So what do I tell my daughters? Don't go out, stay at home, don't leave after a certain time, don't put on a certain cloth, don't dress up certainly, don't speak certain words, don't fight with boys unnecessarily on the road. So these are the ways we subtly teach our children, because society is such that we have to do. So I think a lot has to do with political leadership, just one thing, because at the political leadership level, if you don't have more women, they can't understand, you need leadership. In India, amongst the top 50 Nifty 50 companies, there's only one CEO. In the US, there are around 39 CEOs. In the political leadership, there's hardly 4% women today. So where will the attitude change from? It's got to come top down.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. So now my next question, not a question, just a discussion point is, have you ever felt, Jahnabi, in your position and your stature, have you ever come across a gender wage gap? I mean, we hear about it all the time. We hear about so many women raising it, the women even at the top of the ladder. I mean, in the corporate, the topmost corporates, or anywhere for that matter, we do hear of this gap, pertaining to a specific gender. So does that really exist? Do you think, have you faced that?
Well, not me personally, because I've really not worked for others, but I've been self-employed for 30 years now. But what I can say is that, yes, that we do know that at each level of our economy, there is this gender issue, and there's definitely a gender gap. But I just checked the other day with the tea garden, because Assam is the largest production of tea. But we do have equal wages for our men and women. For the tea pluckers. That's something I checked. But I know that in the brick kiln and every other sector, there is this huge disparity.
Yeah,
and there is not only at the grassroots, but definitely at corporate India as well, which they are trying to. And now that the government has made it mandatory for the last few years about having more women on the board, these things are going to be addressed more. The more you bring in a successful woman into your board, the more she will also bring in other women into the fold. So it'll be, or if one can come up to that ladder, that woman is also incumbent on her to help other women along the way. And that is what organizations like FICCI Flow, for instance, which is a women's chamber, to see that we mentor people along the way. Wherever we see the differences in that level, point that out, and see that more and more women get engaged, get employed, and seek that fair treatment. But having said that, I do think in India the position is a lot better. Even if you say the most developed or so-called developed country in the world, US has a huge gender gap at the corporate level. So where do we talk about that?
Right.
Now our issue in India is more about just the labor participation. And that too, because interestingly, it's not because of, it's because as the more you get educated, the less women are going to work. So there's a dichotomy in terms there.
Absolutely. Yes, I agree with you. Mamta, I am not too sure whether you have faced any such situation in your career. You've been a part of hospitality, you've been a part of travel industry for many, many years. So, yes.
I've been part of the fintech industry for a very long time, which is supposed to be the finest paying industry, which is 14 and a half, 15 years actually. So HR is where I've been before, hospitality, HR, and now life takes me back to hospitality. So first of all, I think women, there is wage parity. But in the US and most multinationals, one of the parameters, because I'm in HR, I can tell you one of the parameters that is getting measured across companies is to look at this wage parity and present to the board that kind of data. And that data shows that there are pockets of, in certain functions, there is wage difference. The other thing is women do not open their mouth and ask for a promotion. Very rarely in the corporate sector do women speak up for themselves. So when it came to me, I found suddenly that I was probably not getting as much as I deserved. I'm not talking about parity within the office because we're in different departments. If you're the CHRO of an organization, who do you compare with? Each department is different, right? So I compared it using Glassdoor and all the other metrics that exist to figure out that probably I'm not paid. I'm not at all paid the way I should be because I never opened my mouth and spoke, right? So finally, I did open my mouth and speak, and I picked up 9 reasons why I should get paid what I should get paid, made a big case, got it, and then got paid what I should get paid.
Wow.
And so it works if you open your mouth and speak, but with data, logically, non-aggressively, you can get your way forward. And another thing, back to the point where women are not letting go and women want to run their own. Oh, sorry, I don't know what that was. Women want to run their own families and things like that, and they're not let go at all. So then that is going to slow down your career progress. So if there are 2 couples and they happen, like my husband and I, we're batchmates, and you're working your way up together, and one decides to raise the child, and the other is continuing with his journey to become a future whatever it is that he's planning to become. So you've taken a detour to get where you are. So you are going to lose a few years in the bargain. So where you need to be at 40, I'd say 36, it will take you till 38, 39, 40 to get there, even if you are that so-called high achiever. And last thing is, do you want all of that? Does a woman really want all of that? Do you really want to get all of that, and how badly do you want it, and at what cost? So women need to be very clear in their minds what they want out of life, and that also keeps changing. So with each phase of your life, be very clear, what do you want? What do you want to compromise? What do you want to have, not have? And if you have that clarity of thought and in your heart and your mind, and you found purpose in what you're doing, so paisa kya hai? It'll come, it'll go, it'll come, it'll go. It hardly matters. But yes, if you want something, fight for it. Ritu, can't hear you, and you need to unmute.
You have to unmute.
You're on mute.
Yes. So Ruby, I have a question for you. Toolika is coming and going, so I think there is some issue at her end. So what do you say about inequality? Do you really think there is a disparity in terms of leadership opportunities for women?
You know what? It's about the big boys club. So if you look at it, when you go to a VC, 90% of VCs have men at the top. So it's so you have them pushing more men. You have the IITians club. All IITians helping each other. Where is the women's club? So it doesn't exist. We women hardly network. All of you think we are running after kids, our house, our in-laws, and then when we have time, we feel having time to network with people is a bad trait. We hardly take our time for these things that men do on their way to the top. So somewhere. It's not like opportunities don't exist. It's about what Mamta said. How much are you willing to sacrifice to go up to the top? How much are you willing? You can't ask for everything and not be willing to make the sacrifices. So somewhere, because I've been an entrepreneur and even a work from home mother, I'm telling you a reality. As an entrepreneur, I've worked with many women who are working from home mothers. But, when it comes to a situation, I have an urgent client meeting and I understand your child is unwell and you have problems at home, but there's nobody else to support it. But what do I tell my client? You're not available. If I have to send you out to Uttarakhand for a meeting, you say, I can't go, but men don't have these issues. So this is a reality. So on your way to the top, you have to be making these sacrifices. Otherwise, you have to make your own rules and decide where you want to be. But you can't ask for everything and not be willing to make the sacrifices. That's not equal.
Then you can't be complaining. Then you can't be sulking and
outside of the men. So you have to make your support system and help them come up. So every time, don't expect the organization to bend for you, because organization is also got to run a business and has commitments. So that's also a reality.
So you feel that opportunities do exist at the leadership level, but we as women, we do not want to be hesitate from compromising on certain things.
It's about how hard you work. So
that's where the opportunities just go away, and we are not. Yeah, our mindset is very, very different.
Also,
we are there. We know that.
There's so few women at the top who will understand, who will empathize with your issues. It's also a lot about empathy. So, if I'm a woman, I understand the issues of my women employees, my associates, because I've been through that situation myself. So empathy is very important, and for that you need an empathetic leader. And men and women, once they reach the top, they are much better leaders than men. This is what research
Definitely.
shows. So it's just a point that it's just a game. As long as they're right getting up the ladder, and we
Yes.
create more women who are going up the ladder.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. Totally.
Yeah.
So I think we have covered a lot of things today. It has been a very, very insightful and a very, it has been a great brainstorming session, I would say. So are there any questions? Are there any questions for us?
I just like to add, Ritu.
Yes, Jahnabi, please.
Yeah. Bottom line is that strong women need to take each other along. Women need women to help. And
So
that's why
there- Yes, yes, absolutely. Okay, so let me have your views about female rivalry, which does exist in the corporate. I mean, yes, you're right. You're right to a very large extent.
But only an evolved leader, one who is also raised, only she can go up if she takes other women along with her. That's what I've been very passionate. We have to. We can't. We are looking for a gender-neutral society. We can't have any excuses. We have to, like I said, have your domain knowledge, be good as any man. And in fact, it really should. I mean, women can lead in every aspect. Look at the way the countries have managed the pandemic. They were all women leaders who did the best job.
Absolutely.
It is really time for the women for the 21st century, coming more into the political space, take on those uncomfortable jobs, ask those uncomfortable questions, and as a strong woman, take other women along with you. It's entirely up to us.
I just have a point here to add. This time in the Olympics, the Tokyo Olympics, you have 49% representation of women. It's almost equal for the first time. So even in the Olympics, it's been a marathon for women to reach where they are. So I think we are somewhere along the way. We'll reach there.
Yes, we are on the right track, I think. And there more and more women are evolving, and they are, realizing this. They are realizing, and they are opening up to the fact that yes, sky is the limit for us, and we are there. And and we have to get going. We have to get cracking. Yes.
No longer in the old days when you spoke about women being each other's enemy. The other mother-in-law stories and all those are over now. Everyone is equal. There's a strong women who take away.
Absolutely, absolutely. I totally agree with you on that. So yes. So where are the questions? Are there any questions here?
I saw one pop up, Ritu, but I don't know where it's.
Yeah, I mean, I can see it. Yeah, we are all very new and to this platform. So I also saw one popping up here, but I really don't know where it's gone now. So I'm not too sure.
There it's come. Webber has put it up. Do you think the problem is deep rooted in our societal beliefs?
Okay, so Kanika Mishra is asking a question. Her question is, very well said, women also are responsible for the gender inequality to a great extent. Okay, so I don't think that's a question. That's a statement.
The question was asked by Renu. Do you think the problem is deep rooted in our societal beliefs about men, women, and leadership roles?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
I mean, the answer is yes.
But
The answer is yes.
That's it. Yeah. Anybody would like to elaborate a little bit on that?
Just to elaborate, okay. I thought in the interest of time, I mean, there was no debate on that. It is there.
And I think we have already touched upon this.
Yeah, we have.
It has been a very, very extensive and elaborate discussion. So I'm sure we have touched upon all of the major ones here. So let's see if there are any more questions. I don't see any more questions here. So are we? No more questions. All right. So we are okay to wind up then. And so it's been a great session, I would say, and a very healthy and balanced session at the same time. And you all have been wonderful co-panelists. And thank you all for being here. And I'm really, my apologies really for that, that hide and seek I had been playing initially in the beginning of the conversation, but I couldn't really help that much, technical glitches, as you all know. So yeah, so that's what it is. And thank you all. Thank you once again. And it was wonderful having you all here on this panel. And we have gained a lot of great insights and learned a lot of great things and a lot of information. So thank you all. Thank you. Thank you, Jahnabi. Thank you, Mamta. Thank you, and thank you, Toolika, for not being here.
And thanks to Who's Global for initiating this and touching upon very important topic. This is just this special topic which should go on and on. But basically,
Yes.
we want to end on a positive note that yes,
Definitely.
the century does belong to women.
Definitely, the dialogue has to continue. It will continue. This was just the beginning of it, and this was just the tip of the iceberg for us. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you on behalf of SDLC Global. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. And have a great weekend.